Aloha, I'm Dr. Helen Kahai. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist coming to you from Bradenton, Florida, and I am submitting my questions for the position of psychologist. First question, asking about my experience as a clinical psychologist. The most recent experience I have is working at the VA healthcare system, both at St. Petersburg and Sarasota, Florida clinics, as well as working in North Pole, Alaska, and working for the military. I found that most of my career has been utilizing either clinical and or counseling psychology. The patients that I see most of the time are there for therapy. Every once in a while, people are hoping to get a personality, substance abuse, marriage assessment, but really most people are there for therapeutic intervention and building their life skills and understanding how they tick. So I utilized cognitive behavioral therapy and solution focused therapy as per government regulation, and a sprinkle of evolutionary and existential psychology just because that's my personality and that's where my interest lies. And but typically I would see quite the gamut of patients across the DSM spectrum. So with their disorder and their background history, majority of people are there for mental health treatment. So some of the settings that I've worked in include residential treatment facilities, hospitals, prisons, schools, military bases and posts, and outpatient clinics. These settings typically have patients that are legally encumbered, so not guilty by reason of insanity, incarcerated individuals, children, high risk adolescents, active duty military members, and veterans. I think back to when I was a baby therapist, my first gig. I worked in a residential treatment facility for high risk adolescent males that were coming from the kiddie prison. And I ended up writing my first dissertation on these young men and really curious about how they tick. Now that I'm here in Florida, I'm volunteering for teen court, and I am instantly brought back to the day when I was 25 years old, thinking, wow, these kids are really fun. I really enjoy working with them. And they're kind of reminiscent of the good old days. And so those are some of my patient settings and a little bit more about me. So, my educational background starts with my bachelor's degree in psychology. I have a master's degree in counseling psychology. I'm also a licensed mental health counselor in the state of Hawaii and a licensed professional counselor in the state of Alaska. And I hold two doctoral degrees. One is a doctoral degree, it's an EDD, and its emphasis is counselor education and clinical supervision. And then I went back to school and got another doctoral degree because everyone should do that. And that is the PsyD, and the emphasis is in clinical psychology. The next part of this question makes me smile a little bit because asking about my professional qualifications, I would be remiss if I didn't say I care. However, that's probably not what you're looking for. And I'm hoping that professional qualifications, besides having empathy and wanting to be here, being ethical is really important. I think is probably the number one most important thing. If you don't know how to do something, or you feel like you might have gotten into hot water with your patient or even a coworker, it's really important to check in with your supervisor and or seek consultation, even if it's with your malpractice lawyer. I think as far as qualifications go, the aforementioned education and licensure sort of proves that I'm qualified. However, there are other aspects of working in this field that are extremely important and sometimes brushed under the rug. So I want to emphasize that qualifications, in my mind, have to do with being ethical and being empathetic and being motivated to do kind of a tricky job. So as soon as I saw this job posting, I was interested immediately. I was reminded of my friends that came back to Hawaii just for a visit. They had moved to Australia and were raving about their jobs and their friends and the environment. Everything was peachy keen, and basically they hated the rest of us at that point. So it was really cool to hear how excited they were about their brand new lives and this adventure that they had decided to embark upon. And also, I've met a few people from Australia. I have friends in the neighborhood here in Florida that are from Melbourne, and it's just interesting to me to travel and to move around and get to know mental health systems, even within the country. I've worked in several states, and there's a lot that I do not know. It seems like almost every state has different regulations, and it's my job to learn them. However, it's also interesting culturally. There are a lot of different ideas in different parts of the country and different parts of the world. I want to explore those. I want to get to know what other nations need. I'm super curious. I also worked for the Marine Corps many years ago, and they were prepping to go to Darwin. I think it was Darwin. And they had training after training. It went on for months. And from that moment, I thought, I really want to check this country out. It seems like it's got a lot going on, and I want to be part of it. So that's why. Very limited understanding of Australia's healthcare system. I really hope that it aligns with my personal values and reasons for becoming a practitioner in this field. It's really important to me to provide care to folks that maybe can't afford it or are nervous, never attempted counseling for the first time. And I want to be part of a good experience for people. I want it to be professional, and I want it to be friendly, and I want it to be fun, and I want it to be sort of transparent and um, less hidden than what it seems like. Nobody really knows what you're doing because it's all kind of like cloak and daggery, and I really want to get away from that. I want people to say, oh, I went and saw my therapist today, or I went and saw my provider, mental health provider today, and this is what they said. And you can compare notes and you can make jokes about how ridiculous your psychologist is. That's fine, but come and see us. And that's important. This is a 50-year long career. It is not something that you do sort of like short term. I mean, you can, but it's totally understandable if you get burnt out. However, in my mind, it is something that I will do for 50 years. I got 30 more to go, and I have plenty that I want to do. Something that's really interesting to me is being what I call a traveling psychologist. It's being able to experience different cultures, different environments, different forms of treatment, and interfacing with people that maybe haven't ever met a psychologist before. I think it's hilarious when my friends or neighbors or my son's baseball team parents are saying, we've never met a psychologist like you. Or are all psychologists kind of similar? And to me, they're able to open up and say, hey, I'm really unfamiliar with your style. Is that how everybody else is? Can I find someone that matches with me better than you do? So those are some of the reasons why I'm hoping that the healthcare system there in Australia can uh, match well with my personality as well as my training and my expectations. I do have plans to stick it out for another 30 years. So experiencing some variety, that is really also, I think, key.